views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to Radically Distinct Radio with Jenn Morgan. Radically Distinct Radio bridges the worlds of brand marketing and professional development to help you take control of your future and build your brand to accomplish your goals. Whether you're an individual trying to reinvent yourself to launch a new venture, or you're an executive trying to reposition your company to modernize your sales and marketing programs, Radically Distinct Radio provides insights for how to show up in the world as your most powerful brand. As a brand strategist, advertising producer, and business coach, Jenn Morgan has 15 years' experience helping individuals, teams, and companies create stories that inspire action. Her RAD method empowers people to be radically distinct by giving them a framework for perceiving their brand and expressing their value that sets them in a class of their own. Now, she brings the RAD method to the airwaves to help you maximize your brand power to produce results. Here's your host, Jenn Morgan.
Yeah, we got Jenn Morgan here, and I'm Dr. Pat. She and I are co-hosting this amazing segment of self-promotion, key to living a radically distinct life. Jenn, oh my goodness, this is a toughie, isn't it?
Yeah, self-promotion is a scary subject for most people.
Yeah. I grew up with the expression from, a family, and the expression was self-promotion stinks. And I thought to myself, okay, now we're in trouble because we have this bias on self-promotion and what it is. And it's a bias that really doesn't serve us, right? It just doesn't serve us. So tell us about self-promotion and why this is important and paramount for how we are seen and get out in the world.
Yeah, I'm watching this show on Netflix called Marco Polo. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay, so it only was 2 seasons, and I've watched it now 3 times because I really like the show. And if you haven't seen it, it's inspired by Marco Polo's early years in the Kublai Khan, in the court of the Kublai Khan, which was he was the Mongol Empire during 12th Sal. And he gets this great idea, and he starts drawing plans on the ground of, I guess it's a catapult, which is like this siege, this big, you know what a catapult is, but you use it during war. Yeah. And he gets one of the generals to look at the drawings, and he starts explaining to the general how it will help the Mongols win battles. And eventually he gets released from his cell to help build it, and he gets back into the good graces of the Khan. So that's self-promotion. And I realize that might be a little bit dramatic for most people when they think about the idea of self-promotion, but it really is life or death when you're thinking about what is it that you want in life. Do you want what you want and where you want to go and the vision that you have, or do you just want the world to tell you who you're going to be in the world? So we live in a really political world. That means that you have to be able to think about how we as humans don't make decisions emotionally. We make decisions emotionally, not logically. We're not a logical decision maker, especially when it comes to groups. And that makes us very political. And in a political environment, if you don't self-promote, then you're a dodo. I don't know if you remember in my chart where I had that dodo bird down in the left corner. If you don't have my chart, you can opt into the text club. The number is 31996, and you just text in the word RAD. But there's a picture of a dodo bird over there. So if you don't self-promote, you're a dodo because no one's looking out for your future but you. So that's really why self-promotion is really important for yourself. And if you don't create the story that you want people to have about you and what you're all about, they're going to create one for you. And that's how misperceptions start. And it's really hard to change a misperception.
And let's talk about this for a minute because, if you go back a number of years, here's what we know. We know that generally, even 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, we know that the way to promote was really limited in terms of where we are today. There used to be a way that you applied for a job. There used to be a way that you could pitch a business idea. Now, every single thing that is out there about you is either going to promote you or not promote you. And we're dealing with positive promotion, not so positive promotion. But the point that you just made is we can positively promote our image. Why is it that people don't want to do it? Why don't they just don't want to do it? Think it's bad.
Well, I think that we think it's bad because we don't know. One, maybe we don't know how to do it well. There's a lot of people who don't have a really good vocabulary for how to describe who they are in the world. For example, the ugly duckling is a story that we all tell our children about how when we grow up, eventually we're going to become relatable to the world. So that's my short version of what I think that story is about. But it's really a story about someone who's not knowing who they are. And we start out thinking of ourselves as an odd duck. And then the more and more ridicule that the ugly duckling receives from other animals, the more he withdraws from community and eventually runs away from home. So what if instead the ugly duckling knew that he's not a duck at all? He's a swan, right? That's what self-promotion is knowing who you are and then having the emotional strength to communicate it to people when they don't get it right. Yeah, go ahead.
Then the question is, we don't see ourselves very well. Isn't that what you do? Help people to really see themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can have an outdated idea of who we are that came from, the last time that we had to apply for a job. Let's say you've been in a job for 30 years. Well, who are you now that you have to go get a job, right? Or we have an outdated idea of who we are. So that's why, personal branding can really help. It can also, you can find yourself in a new leadership position at work. And now all of a sudden you have to manage perception. You have to manage a whole bunch of other things that you didn't have to in the job you had before. And now, who am I to be telling people that I'm the leader here? Who am I? So we start having these questions within ourselves that cause us to not want to speak up or know how to speak up in a way that really feels congruent with who we are. So, people don't like it because maybe they don't know how to do it. We don't like it because we don't have the skills to do it. And also, I think that we try too hard to try to do it all on our own.
Yeah. And there are ways to promote ourselves, and then there are ways to promote ourselves. Somebody sent me something very interesting the other day, and I clicked on it and I went to a page and it talked about, the 8 top strategies for marketing in 2017. And I was looking at them, and one of them was really interesting. It was about stories and storytelling. How important is it for people to, first of all, know they've got a story, and then secondly, know how to go about telling that story to the people or the audience, right? Their target audience.
Well, I think that when you're self-promoting, you're either going to be seen one of 2 different ways. One, very helpful and wow, really good at promoting yourself. Or 2, like a braggart. I don't know what else to call it. And the question is whether or not you were able to promote yourself in a way that served the people you're communicating to or not. So if what you're doing when you're promoting is also wrapped up in the message that you're communicating to other people in a storytelling sort of way, then people they understand how you fit into the overall message you're delivering. But if all you're doing is talking about yourself and puffing yourself up, then you're just going to look like a douchebag. I don't know what else to say. And that's going to cause, that really is not really a story. That's really just like bragging.
Yeah. Well, a misperception, misdirection. We're actually hearing a ton about this in the news and the media. Misperception, misdirecting, misinformation, miss. And if we miss all of that, we really are going to miss the target of what we want to accomplish, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to be able to live the dream that you have in mind, if you want to be able to get your ideas, change your community, get people to notice who you are, get people to buy your services, then what you need to do is be able to promote yourself in a way that serves your purpose. And, the media is really good at confusing us as general people, I think, like there's the story that people in the media want to hear. So maybe you can have a conspiracy theory about who owns the media. But then there's also a lot of money behind certain ideas, right? So a movie is a certain idea, right? It's an idea that we put out into the world. And in order to get that idea out into the world, we have to have a lot of financial backing. So there's a lot of reasons that we have to learn how to be able to understand what is perception as a group of people individually. How do we understand what perception is? And then how can we understand when we're being misdirected so that we can speak right to it? Because that's what's happening. We're having more of a voice as a community across the world with the internet. But if we're not able to have a conversation that's not just us arguing with each other about whose political agenda is more relevant, then how are we really ever going to have more power as a people? At least that's the way that I look at it. So I think that understanding how to shape perception, understanding how to promote yourself and your ideas, and understanding how to make that like something other people can engage in, that's a skill that if more people knew how to do, there would be less ability to misdirect us as a population.
Yeah. I want to ask you, the question about sometimes we get confused about what is promotion and what is passion. Now, when we come back, I know you've talked about passion on previous shows. And I find that if we can get at the core of what we're passionate about, we step into talking and communicating in ways that may help us at least identify how we can promote ourselves through passion and purpose. Let's take a short break, everyone. We'll be right back. Radically Distinct Radio. Jenn Morgan is in the house. Self-promotion. Those of you out there, you got a question, comment, 1-800-930-2819. We'll be right back.
I've been running through rain that I thought would never end. Trying to make it.
Want to help reduce the divisiveness in our world? Each year, the School for Esoteric Studies holds a subjective group conference. This year, our focus is on unity in diversity, the science of right human relations. From April till June, we will meditate together, study relevant writings, and share practical strategies for improving how we relate with each other. Join us to help build inclusive communities. Check on our subjective group conference at esotericstudies.net. That's the School for Esoteric Studies at esotericstudies.net.
Tune in to The Jenn Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life, each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jenn is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit JennRoyster.com for more information.
Is traditional medicine not working for you? Do you still feel as if your health isn't 100%? Here at the Holistic Medical Center, Dr. Nushin Darvish and the qualified staff look through the dimensions of wellness and start a healing plan prioritized to your needs. Our physicians assess the whole you until complete health is achieved. Get the help you need by visiting drdarvish.com or call 425-451-0404.
When your body is awakened, your spirit comes alive. Dana Canetto is a transformational guide, embodiment coach, and spiritual mentor assisting women in realigning with their truth and embodying who they are by connecting to the wisdom of their body. Tune in.
Apparel can help you do just that. This is not just about a piece of clothing. This is about a movement, an awakening, and staying centered in life. Your life.
Back in the broken places, oh, but I know in my soul, no matter how bad it gets, I'll be alright.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Radically Distinct Radio with Jenn Morgan and me. I'm Dr. Pat. You know, we're tight. This is really kind of cool, right? Self-promotion, key to living a radically distinct life. And, you know, Jenn, you're walking us through some of the most important things that we should be aware of, you know, during the show and how we can do this. But before we get to, you know, why we dim our light over time, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and tell us what you've got going on?
Well, you can go to my website, jennmorgan.com. That's Jenn with 2 N's, Morgan.com. I have going on, let's see. Well, we have the Text Club. The Text Club is just a faster way for you to get updates about the show, the podcast, and this aspect of the show when it comes live. I send you a little message weekly or every other week, depending on what I could get done. Let's see, what else? Also, I have some openings for some new clients. So if you're interested in working on your brand, you should give me a call. My number's 206-972-5366.
And wait a minute, by the way, I want to just tell everybody, go to the website. And so, you know, there are previous shows, Jenn, that you've done that's really looking at brand from many, many different perspectives, you know, because the world we live in today, it is really hard to hide from the public right now. And so you're helping people cultivate an image, a story, and even a business where they can be profitable, but also that all of the values represent who they are. And that's what I think is so key. That's what's missing today in the world. So thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah.
Dim in the light. You know, there's a Donna Summer song, you know, dim the light, something like that. Many of us grew up dimming the lights and we didn't even know we're dimming it. I don't even know where to start with this. You know, we do dim our lights. What have you found?
Well, you know, I'm a person who I've always done the thing I was passionate about. I followed the passionate plan. I didn't follow the traditional plan for myself, and to my parents' dismay, I have to say. So I've always been that personality. And about six years ago, I had been for 10 years prior producing advertising campaigns, and the industry changed, and I started to lose my excitement for what I was doing for a lot of reasons. And I had to start to look at how I was going to reposition my skill set for this new world. And now I look back and I see that I was pretty ahead of the curve. But at the time I was scared and just a mess, and I could not get passionate about my work. And that's a problem when you create your own work and you can't get passionate about it.
Yeah.
So I started taking some training courses and working with different coaches and things like that. And it eventually found that I wanted to teach and educate and be able to help people produce better. And I started taking these speaking courses, and I stood on the stage, this is just 5 years ago, and I couldn't remember my name. So I couldn't self-promote at all. And I had been very successful already marketing myself in a career as a producer and as a photographer and in advertising. So I'd already been successful at quote unquote self-marketing. Yet I get on stage and I don't know my name. And so this was a big problem for me. Then a few years, and I'm going to fast forward now, a few years later, and this is just now maybe 3 years ago, I was speaking on confident communication to an audience of 120 women, which is a huge growth, right? It's 3 years for me to go from not being able to speak to speaking in front of 120 women. That was a big freaking deal for me. And I had 25 minutes. My message was on point, and I only had really enough time to tell 3 stories of different experiences of women in the corporate world. At different levels of leadership, the challenges they had, and how I helped them successfully navigate them. And at the end of my talk, I had no questions and a lot of blank stares. I had one woman ask me if I would come speak to her organization. And I had another woman who had been on the stage earlier. She was from a fancy consulting firm, and she went to an Ivy League school. And she came over to me and she said, "Well, that was entertaining." Like, so I was like, got a lot of mixed messages, right? Because I know my message was on point. Like I do know that part. And I know that they were following me because I could see them seeing what I was talking about. But I got a lot of blank stare different people on it so that I could get more of an objective perspective. But I think that I'm talking to a bunch of women who had just had families and now they're going back into the corporate world. And I think that although I was, entertaining and engaging as a person, I don't think that I made the bridge for them. I think for them, it was a big jump, the world I was describing and the world that they were coming from. So, obviously I've worked on my message since then and like my skills to bridge between where the audience is and what I'm speaking about. But it took a lot of courage to put myself back out there again. Mm-hmm. And in order to connect with people, especially from this stage, you have to be open energetically for them to actually feel you, that you know what you're saying, that where you're coming from. And that gets harder and harder the more rejected you feel. And so I think that we dim our light over time because of the emotional trauma that we feel in our bodies when we're rejected. So it doesn't have to be that you were speaking like I was doing. Maybe you put yourself out there to get a promotion and you didn't get that promotion and it hurt because it was, other people know, so it feels, and then it feels a certain way when you put yourself out there. It's risky, it's scary. And then when it doesn't go your way, now you have this feeling in your body that you can't get rid of, right? It doesn't necessarily go away. It's stuck there and you're like, oh, way before you hit the mark. And I'm talking like months and even years, right? So if you want something and the only thing driving you to get that thing done is your desire, you really have to build emotional strength and stamina around rejection, right? Because that emotional memory gets there. It's there, and you're going to have to keep yourself as being a very emotionally strong person. But learning how to step out into the world as a speaker and as a teacher is one of the scariest things that I've ever done. And there's quite a it through until eventually it starts to stick. So how I got there was through, and how I help my clients get there is through this program that I created called the Confident Communicator. And its purpose is to build your emotional strength and stamina to promote yourself and your ideas, because you're going to hear no, you're going to